We will go ahead and call the February 25th CEO Performance and Contract Committee together. It is currently 46 after the hour. So thank you each for coming. I know each of you took some time out of your day to be present, and I appreciate your time in doing so. We'll start off with a conflict of interest statement. And so, Mr. Lesser, would you be kind enough to read that for us?
Conflict of interest, opportunity for each member to disclose potential conflicts and their belief they can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they elect to recuse themselves from the matter.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Esquivel, would you read our mission statement?
Yes, I will. Nashville General Hospital mission statement is to improve the health and wellness of Nashville by providing equitable access to coordinated patient-centered care, supporting tomorrow's caregivers, and translating science into clinical practice.
Thank you. And next item on the agenda is public comment. Guests who wish to speak must be public here in person and sign up before the meeting begins. You will have a 3-minute maximum time. And Ms. Lester, I would ask you if you don't mind to keep the time for us.
Yes, ma'am. We have one person.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Ms. Cantrell.
Ms. Cantrell, if you'll come up and find a microphone and you push the button on the right-hand side, it'll turn green, and then you'll be live. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Cantrell. I'm a former employee of Nashville General Hospital. I do want to disclose that I have a family member who has a business relationship with Ms. Smith at Wells Fargo. With personal knowledge I have of Ms. Smith and her character and integrity, I feel confident coming forward with my concerns. I'm here to formally voice my concerns regarding the potential renewal of Dr. Joseph Webb's contract. As an employee, it became evident to me that the CEO consistently created positions for his friends and family and promoted those with close personal ties to him, regardless of their qualifications. This practice not only undermines meritocracy, but also creates a culture of favoritism that alienates many talented employees, leaving them with no confidence that their efforts will be fairly recognized or rewarded. In my previous department, Patient Access, a position was created for a young man who had a personal relationship with Dr. Webb. He was ineffective in the role he was hired for, but despite his failings in the role of coordinator, a manager position was created for him. Although he was consistently unsuccessful, he continued to move throughout the organization. Another one of Dr. Webb's friends was placed in my department despite having no experience in healthcare. This employee is currently in a position that did not exist prior to their occupation of the role. I am also troubled by a number of issues that have significantly impacted the operations and financial stability, most notably the consistent failure to pay invoices on time, which has led the organization to be placed on credit hold by multiple key suppliers. In my role as department manager, we regularly relied on staffing agency for ER registrars and schedulers. On many occasions, I was contacted directly by the agency due to non-payment and eventually told that they would remove these employees if payment wasn't received immediately, which would have left us terribly understaffed. There are also multiple mornings that we would come in and no one would have access to our clinic EMR system due to non-payment. I also have knowledge of persistent problems with inconsistent and substandard credit card processing, keeping NGH from being able to receive funds from both patients and insurance payers. These interruptions in service and ineffective policies has created a sense of disorganization and undermined the credibility and trust that our partners and patients had in us. Perhaps the most concerning issue is the pervasive toxic work environment that has been fostering during the CEO's tenure. During the 10 years that I was employed at Nashville General, I witnessed employee morale reach an all-time low, with employees feeling undervalued, overworked, and underappreciated. In my opinion, the CEO has cultivated a culture where only his opinion matters and dissent is not tolerated. For years, I was part of an environment where it became clear that if an employee is perceived to have gotten on his bad side, they are at risk of being dismissed from their role, regardless of their performance or contributions to the organization. I believe it is in the best interest of the organization, its employees, and stakeholders that the board not renew Dr. Webb's contract. It is time for a change to restore integrity, trust, confidence in Nashville General Hospital. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing that there's only one individual who signed up to speak at this committee meeting, that will close that piece of our business. The next item up are the minutes for January 21st. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The minutes for the February 19th, 2025 are also up for approval.
And we did not have that meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. So can we strike that from this agenda?
Yes, absolutely.
That was a snow day.
Those are very short minutes.
Those are very short minutes.
Yeah. Were easy to review.
Very easy. I reviewed them from my couch. Okay. Sorry, moving on. So now we will move into our CEO performance goals for the fiscal year 2025 ending June 30th. So in the past, we have used a document that had been created prior to, actually, I believe all of us being on this committee. We have tweaked that evaluation piece in the last meeting, and then look to make some changes again as we continue to push this evaluation forward and make it evolve it to a place where I think our hospital has gotten to. And we have looked in the areas of growth, financial, quality, customer service, and board relations as to basically looking at specific goals and objectives and measurement criteria associated with each of those areas. In the past, we have graded individually either 1 through 5, with 5 being the highest in each of these categories, and that then would allow us to provide a score that would subsequently allow for a recommendation to the full board on Dr. Webb's year-end bonus. So that is the history. Our goal today will be to look at the fiscal year 25 self-evaluation areas and make any recommendation on the changes, and then if not, then ultimately pass this draft. So has everybody had a chance to receive that? Okay. So keeping in line with our last meeting and meeting minutes, I basically went through, added all of our comments to this latest version. I thought we could walk through that piece of it. There were notes that I made for, again, continual evolution of this document for 26 as we continue to, do our best to get this document in a place where it is meeting and achieving what we want as a committee. So we'll start out with this document in the areas of growth. Previously, we had discussed amending the language that included social media and community engagement and words like review, and trying to drive the measurement criteria to more specific and measurable pieces. For instance, the goals and objectives that the first 3 goals and objectives within the areas of growth are increased market penetration into all areas of Davidson County, north, south, east, west, and downtown. Exceed projected numbers for the hospital and all clinics. Prior, that read specifically for Bordeaux and Charlotte clinics. And then we had employee retention, which we moved over to in a different area. So added Cerner implementation because we believe that would grow the hospital and allow for that extra technology piece to be fully engaged, hopefully by the end of the time frame. The measurement criteria would be as follows: increased participation in community events and speaking engagements amongst all of Nashville and report monthly to our board. Increase the number of patients seen at the clinics and hospital by 15% overall from year end. Fully implemented Cerner, and attending relevant healthcare industry meetings, and cascading those findings to the board. Any comments on that specific area or any amendments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Area financials. The last goal was meet or exceed budget goals. We, in the past, have used a prior clean audit, the annual cost of providing uncompensated care versus the subsidy received from Metro, fiscal management, timely collection of accounts receivable and accounts payable to vendors. We decided to amend those to accurately and timely meeting budget goals, reducing expenses, valuing the service lines that are not meeting the goals, increasing net patient revenues, decrease accounts payable delays, and a timely collection of accounts receivables. We will measure that by having an unmodified opinion for prior year audit, have the audit finalized by 10/31. That time frame specifically will allow for Metro to complete its audit on time by 12/31, which was an issue recently. And in speaking with their department to make sure that we were timely, they felt like a 10/31 would be reasonable and then also help them from a city perspective. I've also discussed that with Crossland, who is our CPA, and they felt like that was reasonable as well, as long as the information from National General Hospital was received in a timely fashion and generally accurate. So I'd added a reduction of days on delay of accounts payable to 60 days or less. That specifically came from a meeting I had with Dr. Webb, who I had asked him about the average for an accounts payable for healthcare institutions. He had stated that that was about 45 to 60 days. So that number came specifically from kind of the higher end to try to get us in a reasonable area of accounts payable. Exceeded budget net income without extra unplanned city subsidy. So I think that allows us to stay on track without having to go back to the city. Increase net patient revenue, remain within a 90-day positive cash flow monthly, and budget goals and regular meetings for each executive team member. I think having budget goals for each line of business makes a lot of sense. And I think buttoning that piece up would be very helpful for Nashville General Hospital. Any questions or amendments on here?
I don't have an amendment. I just want to thank you, Ms. Smith, because of your leadership on the Finance Committee. I think these revised objectives are good. And a comment that I have for the committee as we go through, because we've just gone through the prior fiscal year analysis, is how we are looking at these goals and objectives and measurement criteria. My understanding is that both of those were going to figure into both the CEO's self-assessment and this committee's work. In other words, when I see a goal and objective of accurate and timely meeting budget goals and reducing expenses where we're not meeting goals, although it's not also listed within the measurement criteria, I think that is a criterion or criteria that we will use as part of evaluation. So just to clarify that the goals and the measurement criteria are not the sole factors that the committee will look at in doing an assessment, but the goals and objectives play into that as well.
Thank you for those comments and agree. Moving on to quality. The previous evaluation stated maintain accreditation and certification, and I believe that was referencing the Joint Commissions. The measurement was to review the leapfrog grade and fiscal year 24's quality report. We felt like that we needed more stringent criteria there, talking more about the highest quality of patient care and pushing ourselves in this area. So criteria on the draft state goals and objectives for quality are maintain excellent quality patient care standards, maintain a reliable, safe, and clean environment with working equipment, appropriately staff service lines in accordance with budget and annually assessed need. The measurement criteria would be elimination or timely address of serious safety issues, reliability of facility, address operational issues and needed procurement contracts quickly, sign non-disclosure documents for all employees, board members, and contracts, updated annually or upon renewal of the contract if a third party entity or at the moment that a conflict of interest might exist. On that note, we'll discuss this more in our actual full board meeting, but I know that our chief of compliance has been working on some of these as well. So, and a written assessment of clinical needs and appropriate staffing levels to be reviewed semi-annually. Continual employment of key associates, so that to me is the executive leadership team and director level, the goal of a turnover less than 10%. We talked about our turnover in the prior year of being about 15%, and so I think keeping our key people who have been running the hospital and doing a tremendous job is very important, and we need to concentrate on continuing to provide them with what they need to provide the highest quality of care. Improve leadership, team relations, and development by ensuring meaningful and challenging goals for performance improvement semi-annually and developing future leaders within the organization. Mr. Lesser, Mr. Esquivel, any thoughts?
That's consistent with what we talked about our last meeting. I think that looks good.
I would just add a comment. I think it all looks good, but as it relates to the turnover, continual employment of key associates of less than 10%, that we make sure that when we see those numbers, that we're ensuring people leave for various reasons, and we want to make sure that nobody's taking a hit for the wrong reason.
Absolutely. People who move out of town, people who are retiring. Absolutely. I think that needs to be considered.
So may I ask a question? I do have a question about the measurement criteria for signed non-disclosure documents for employees, board members, and contracts. What we're referring to there, or do we mean non-disclosure?
Non-disclosure. We need to amend that to, I believe it's conflict of interest.
Yeah, I believe
Yes.
so. Okay.
So, Janet, would you be so kind as to make a note on that? Perfect, thank you. Next area is customer service. Prior goals were meet or exceed the hospital consumer assessment of healthcare providers and system score, meet or exceed employee and physician engagement scores. The measurement criteria were the hospital consumer assessment of healthcare providers and system score for fiscal year 24. The employment engagement survey results and the physician engagement survey results. There weren't any specific measurement criteria there. The survey results were just the measurement criteria, but no specific goals. We were able to attain this data. Press Ganey is the company that the hospital uses to produce these results. So with that consideration, the customer service goals and objectives evolved to be provide excellent service to all patients, create and maintain an excellent culture for employees, create and maintain an excellent culture for physicians, provide confidential resource and process for employees and physicians to receive feedback and complaints, as well as a culture of compliance. The measurement criteria are to exceed the, I'm just going to read the acronym if y'all don't mind, HCH, HPS scores for fiscal year at an 80% or better rating. The Press Ganey Employment Engagement Survey results of a 4.11 or better. Press Ganey Physician Engagement survey results of greater than 50%, employee retention rates, a turnover of less than 15% to exclude individuals that are retirement age, and I guess we can add moves, things like that. An exit interview for 85% of the employees and physicians completed with follow-up process and monthly reporting, and inconsistent and effective employee communication. Any thoughts or comments, committee, that you would like to add here?
No, that looks good from my perspective.
Okay. The last area is board relations and communications. The prior evaluation stated as a goal and objective to keep the hospital board informed of new growth initiatives, service line development, and any other issues that may impact the hospital's sustainability, growth, or finances. The measurement criteria were as follows: develops and maintain effective working relationships with board members, keeps board fully informed of important development and issues. The CEO provides clear and timely information to the board. For that key results area, we added and stakeholder relationships. Felt that was important. And then the goals and objectives evolved to keep the hospital board informed of new growth initiatives, service line development, and any other issue that may impact the hospital's sustainability, growth, finances, or public profile. Maintain and grow relationships with stakeholders, city officials, medical schools, including Meharry, and community partners, focusing on building the brand and strengthening partnerships for NGH. Measurement criteria: meet with new board members within the first 3 months of appointment. Meet with board members quarterly to semi-annually, depending on board members' availability and needs. Seeks community partnerships in Davidson County to maximize resources and have an impact on the greatest community health needs. Work with the NGH Foundation development staff and foundation board to implement a fundraising program that sets and meets established goals and establishes a relationship with prospective donors and maintains relationships. Any thoughts?
Yeah, on meeting with new board members within the first 3 months of appointment, I think that's way too long. I mean, 3 board meetings could happen in that interim period. I think, I'm not sure what the appropriate wording would be because of schedules and because of schedules, particularly on behalf of the new board member, but I think it should happen as quickly as possible.
Dr. Fagan, Mr. Esteghlal, any thoughts on that? In the first month?
Yeah.
Fine, so we'll amend to that. 30 days, sure.
Well, orientation is a separate issue for the board member, but certainly I would expect the CEO to be involved in that at some point. But this is specific to the CEO meeting with the new board member.
Okay, so orientation is not that meeting?
No.
It's a separate meeting? Okay.
Right.
I'm just making sure.
Janet? Okay. I thank you to the committee. Our committee has been through these goals and objectives and metrics quite a bit. The last 2 bullet points here state that the individual prior to signature would identify any achievements or contributions not already addressed above, noting any major accomplishments we believe should be recognized and provide the background information. And then the last question is, how can the Hospital Authority Board help you most? So again, this would be the amended version that our committee would recommend to the full board to pass for the fiscal year 2025 evaluation. If there are no further discussion points on this document, then I will entertain a motion to approve and move to the full board.
I will make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right. The next item on our agenda is the CEO contract discussions on the contract which expires on June 30th, 2025. At this time, I would like to open the floor to our prestigious committee members and allow each of you to speak on this topic. So,
I'm happy to start the discussion. Thank you for saying prestigious. I will not hope to live up to that. My reflections on the decision that faces the committee and the board about renewal of the contract or extension start with the proposition that I think Dr. Webb, from what I can tell from the history, stepped into this role at a time where it was very challenging and by all accounts brought stability to this role. I think he created programs with significant impact, namely the food pharmacy, by all accounts has had significant effect on healthcare in our community. In our last board meeting, we heard the report that there were 1 million meals that have been delivered, that food has become a part of healthcare. So I'm grateful to Dr. Webb for the work that he's done. I think that the question of renewing his contract is one that is inherently forward-looking. So it's a different set of criteria, which is who is the leader, who is best positioned for the next chapter of Nashville General Hospital. And on that question, I have some concerns about whether Dr. Webb is the right person to advance the hospital. After well more than a century, we are as integral a part of this community as any institution in this community, but I think that the next chapter of the hospital is particularly important. So some of the questions that I have for this committee to discuss, for the board to consider, but I would like to raise, many of them overlapping, center on the construction of a new hospital. There seems to be a consensus among everyone that the existing facility is not a facility for the future. And in fact, it is inefficient. It costs too much money to repair. There has to be some new facility. Now, where that's located, what type of facility that is, what it encompasses are all things that are on the table, but bottom line, there needs to be a new facility. And from what I have observed, Dr. Webb has not been able to amass the coalition that is needed to take that decision forward, and it is a decision and a project that has to be done. There are key constituencies that, although there is a plan for the hospital, a new hospital, key constituencies that are not on board. One being the mayor's office, two being Meharry Medical College, three being this board itself. I will start with the latter. I've been a member of the board, very recently appointed to the board in the last 5 months. I have not gotten the information, given the importance of the issue, to understand what the plan is for the proposed new hospital, how it is to be financed, where it is to be located. I understand from what I've learned so far as a board member is that the hospital leadership at this point is basically agnostic as to where this location of the hospital is going to be, that we are looking to the mayor's office and to Metro government to supply a property to build a hospital that there are plans for. That concerns me and troubles me. I don't understand how you can have a facility as significant to the community as a hospital and be agnostic as to its location. I'm not a real estate person, but I don't think you build a fast food restaurant without doing a serious analysis as to where it is located, who is going to be served by it, how people get to it. So it bothers me that we're on the brink and the need for perhaps a $700 million, $800 million, $1 billion hospital, a public works project of that type, where, you know, our leadership is saying, just find us any place and we'll put a hospital there. That concerns me. It concerns me that the proposal for a new hospital is for a full-service hospital, which may be the right vision for what the community needs, but that the full-service hospital also is primarily because we need that hospital to be the teaching hospital for Meharry Medical College. And that recognizes the long-standing partnership and relationship. The problem with that is that, by all accounts, the relationship between Meharry and the hospital is and has been for some time dysfunctional. And that is a fact. I don't say that as a value judgment. I say that as a person relatively new to this enterprise. But I think it is an unassailable fact that that relationship is in disarray. And if a primary reason that's being given to the community is to build a hospital so that it can be the teaching hospital for Meharry residents and faculty and medical students, it is a significant problem that there is a dysfunctional relationship between the hospital and Meharry. And again, without going into why that exists, that is just a state of affairs. And I guess finally, sort of in these overlapping considerations, as a board member, I'm concerned about the lack of ability to even have the hospital board as part of the coalition that understands the need for and is advocating for this new hospital. I read a statement that was released by Nashville General Hospital leaders the week before last. That said, the hospital leaders are committed to work with Metro government, Meharry Medical College, and the Hospital Authority Board to make the vision of a new hospital a reality. And I paused about the distinction between, or the statement by hospital leadership that they were committed to work with the Hospital Authority Board, as if the Hospital Authority Board were something different than the hospital and the leadership of the hospital. There is a fundamental disconnect that I have seen that is to the detriment of the organization. So all these things are things that give me concern. As I said, I believe from what I have seen in my interactions with Dr. Webb personally, he seems a person who has a passion for the mission of this hospital. Dr. Webb, in my interactions with him, seems to care deeply, I know cares deeply about providing health care to poor and marginalized people. He is an advocate for healthcare equity. All of these things are strong passions, and I join him in those passions. This is a different question, which is, despite those skills and talents and what he's done, is Dr. Webb the right person for what the next chapter of Nashville General Hospital needs to be, which primarily is building a coalition to figure out what facility we are going to be in, what that looks like, and that is going to require coalition building that I don't think Dr. Webb has done. That has been a major charge for him, and that someone else needs the opportunity to do. So I'm sorry for my long-winded comments, but I wanted to start the discussion with the suggestion that this decision for this committee and a recommendation and the board ultimately is forward-looking, and I have concerns whether Dr. Webb is the right person to make that vision a reality.
Thank you very much. Dr. Fagans, do you have any comments?
Yes, I've been on the board, I believe, for about 7-8 years, and I graduated from Meharry Medical College. I did my residency here at Nashville General Hospital, so I've seen this hospital from, over the last 20 plus years, how it has improved over time. When I was a resident, there were people who said they would never come to Nashville General Hospital. I remember patients, taking care of patients in the ICU, and one family in particular said, oh, you know what, we would have never thought that we would have gotten such great care here. And, you know, you guys did such a good job taking care of our father. You know, we'll make sure that we tell the community this. And so over the years, that I've seen it improve. Being on the board for the last several years, I've seen different CEOs prior to Dr. Webb when I was a student and when I was a resident who led this hospital. And I believe in Dr. Webb. I believe that he can do the job. He has a passion, like you said, for the underserved and for, you know, the marginalized. And he's done great things since he's been here. You've been on the board for just a very short time, and so you haven't really had the opportunity to see what he's done. There have been roadblocks throughout the years that he's been the CEO of this hospital, and these are roadblocks that I'm sure, you know, being in a community hospital, we don't have the resources that, say, Vanderbilt has or HCA has, you know, so he's been able to navigate through those roadblocks, you know, bringing new clinics to the community and providing services to those who are marginalized and who need those services. So I don't think that he would have, I don't have a concern that he can't do the job. I think that the main thing is getting this PSA with Meharry and getting more information about how we're going to go about getting a new hospital and doing more research and getting more information from Dr. Webb. But I think he can do the job.
Well, I appreciate my colleagues' comments, especially about Dr. Webb and what he has accomplished in his time here. I do want to reference some bullet points, if I may, without going into detail on each and every one of these. And these are not in any particular order, just as they came into my mind prior to this meeting this afternoon. The employee and physician surveys, modest but not outstanding results. Personal receipt on my part of letters and calls regarding concerns of nepotism and hints of retaliation. Very poor internal communication. Lack of progress on the PSA and the overall relationship with Meharry, which looms as a very, very large issue, as I think we can all acknowledge. Nashville, widely known as a healthcare capital, yet NGH's relationships with other hospitals and sector leaders should be so much better. Efforts regarding the idea of a new hospital. Clearly, the structure we are in either needs a massive overhaul or a new location must be found. In 2021, the board approved NGH leadership to work with the mayor and council to partner and work on plans for the hospital. By May of 2023, Mayor Cooper wrote in a letter to the board, "My office and other parts of Metro are often unable to receive updates, performance metrics, and basic communication and transparency from NGH leadership. Since that time, what progress has been made, it would appear not very much. As many of you know, I often look at policy issues through the lens of economic development. I spent most of my career in Georgia, specifically Atlanta, where Henry Grady Hospital, the public hospital, also a teaching hospital, is a major component of providing health care to Atlanta citizens. I have personal experience as a newcomer to Atlanta in my much younger days with no insurance and was treated for a severe illness. Some years later, Grady was facing serious financial issues, but the business community stepped up. And to this day, Grady is revered as a go-to hospital as any other in Atlanta. As I mentioned, Nashville has a healthcare reputation, but the city's national and global reputation could only be enhanced by a strong public hospital that serves the needs of Nashville citizens with support from all leadership components of the city beyond City Hall, including the various nonprofits and leaders of the business community. I haven't observed a significant collaboration of that sort here in Nashville. There has been reference in various meetings we've had and a report that was sent to individual board members concerning various financial concerns that came out of the mayor's office. I want to move on to something that struck me very personally today, and it bothers me a great deal. Today's Nashville banner story. I'm surprised and offended by the quotes in that story by Nashville General Hospital's political consultant, Jerry Maynard. I'm personally offended by his criticism of the makeup of the current board, in which he says, and I will quote here, "We have seen over the last 2 years people who have no connection to the community, no connection to General Hospital, no connection to the patients, don't know nothing about the hospital, don't know nothing about Meharry, had to get a GPS system to find North Nashville," being appointed to the board. I'm one of those board appointees, and I'm incensed at the inferred personal criticism. That's a management issue allowing a political consultant to make those comments publicly. I spent 20 years as an executive of Georgia Power Company, the supplier of most of the electricity in Georgia. And for over 100 years has been a motto called "a citizen wherever we serve." I am a citizen of Nashville, and it is here where I serve. We're a public hospital serving the people of Nashville. And while I give appropriate kudos to Dr. Webb, as my colleagues have done here today, for many of his positive initiatives in his 10 years as CEO, given the changing dynamics in providing health care to a dramatically growing community, given the internal financial and accounting issues that have been referenced, given the lack of progress in work with our partners at Meharry and City Hall, I am of the opinion that now is the time for a reset, a time to not look in the rearview mirror, but to clean up these issues, to get back on track with our partners, and to add new partners to assist the board and the staff of this hospital to sort out the very best path forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you to all who have spoken. I have some comments as well, and then if there's anybody that would like to follow up on any other comments from each of our committee members, I want to allow for that. So I think there's a lot that's been going on in the media, and one of the concerns that I have is that we are focused at times on the man and not the mission. And I think one of the concerns I have personally is that the work that is being done at Nashville General Hospital is being done by some amazing people who work here. The employees are the people who keep this hospital running. Like Dr. Fagan said, when she was there, they were talking about how great the employees and the service that they provide, and especially in these people's times of need. To me, that goes to, who these people are. When I read these Press Ganey surveys, what it tells me is people believe in that mission. People believe in what they are, kind of the goal of why they came here. They could be at, other hospitals, possibly being paid more, but they believe in the mission here. And that really, to me, is something that is personally also how I feel about my spot here. None of us are paid board members. Somebody actually asked me in the community, they said, "Do you get paid for that?" I said, "I wish I got paid for that, because I've been spending about, 25, 30 hours a week, I seems, doing the research, heading these committees, and I have gone through every single criteria that is on our evaluation for the last fiscal year, and asked for that information from every executive leadership team member. I read it all. I don't know what was done prior to us. I can't speak to 8 to 10 years. What I can speak to is what I see, what I hear, and what I read. When I read Press Ganey survey results that are not good, when I get multiple, I was trying to go through quickly today, complaints from current and employees that state there are, inconsistencies, there are retaliation, there is favoritism and nepotism, there is some non-functional medical equipment, disparity in hiring practices. To me, that goes to culture. I asked specifically about the physician survey results. Those were not completed in the last 2 years. And if you actually look at the results, those are not really very strong either. So I know we're going to be doing a deeper dive in our board meeting, but that speaks to me in terms of the culture. In terms of the budget, so I tend to be a math person, I've talked to individuals here to try to find out about the budget. I have concerns because I don't know that people are being held to budgets within their specific lines of business, which concern me. And that obviously, if they're not held within those budgetary constraints or they're not part of the planning process, then that can throw off the entire hospital budget in and of itself. I've looked at pro formas. The audits, we have constantly had material deficiencies within our audits. I think I'd stated earlier, I've spoken with our auditors, Crossland, multiple times. I've spoken with Metro's finance department because of our delays, and the same issues continue to persist with the controls, the monthly reconciliations, et cetera. So I believe that Dr. Webb also is excited about what he sees that can be here. I do believe 100% he cares about the patients. He cares about the community. I too, though, with some of my other committee members, I'm not in a place where I think that he is the person to lead us forward in terms of the relationships. They're fractured at best, broken at worst, and I don't know that wound or that can be healed very quickly. We have a very short time frame. We're out of this lease in 2027, and I also agree we have to make a decision on what we're going to do with this facility. To me, we have the staff and employees. We have the mission. We have great patients. I feel like we have a great board. Maybe I'm biased, but I think we have a great board. But I do think we need a change. So with that, is there anybody that would like to follow up on any of the comments here that are committee members to each other's comments? Okay. One thing I did want to note in terms of employees, several of us, I believe, it sounds like have had people come forward. I'd like Derek, if you don't mind, who is with Metro Legal and our board counsel, to just say a quick bit about how anyone who's an employee should not feel in any way that they would be retaliated against or any type of misconduct in terms of treatment if they have come forward already or if they feel like that's what they need to do. So I just want to make sure that our employees feel protected and they feel safe to raise their hand if there is something indeed that needs to be discussed.
Or for refusing to remain silent about illegal activities. The statute goes along to identify who an employee is, and including a person employed by a municipality, county, a department, board, commission, agency, instrumentality, political subdivision of any other entity of the state. So it's an inclusive, broad spectrum of who is considered an employee subject to that statutory protection. And we also have protections that are afforded to individuals under the False Claims Act, Tennessee Code 418-105B. No employer shall discharge, demote, suspend, threaten, harass, deny promotion to, or any other manner discriminate against an employee in the terms and conditions of employment because of lawful acts done by the employee on behalf of the employer or other in disclosing information to a government or law enforcement agency or in furthering of false claims action. Local Government Modernization Act of 2005 also deals with efforts available for things such as the maintenance of adequate accounting records. Local governments are encouraged to consider forming audit committees. There's just all these protections surrounding both the commitment to the efforts to provide proper principles of accounting, audits, and so forth, along with protections for employees that come forward with claims. There's also, under many of the employment discrimination acts, both in Tennessee and federal law, that protect persons from being able to bring forth claims, provided they have a reasonable basis for belief they are being discriminated against or harassed, and those acts themselves provide within them protections prohibiting retaliation. Moreover, Mayor Freddie O'Connell has in place an executive order number 21 that has, it's a workplace conduct policy that protects employees from abusive conduct and the such. And it is also expressed in there that it's a violation against persons who report or make a charge of abusive conduct. So the law is pretty comprehensive, that there is protection afforded employees and that they have opportunities if they feel like those have been violated. There's multiple options of exploring how they can address their concerns. So I'll invite you if you have any other questions, but that's a general encapsulation.
I appreciate that information, and I did want to take you up, Madam Chair, on your invitation to engage in discussion with the board. I did want to say to Dr. Fagans that I really appreciate your remarks and your long history with the hospital dating back to being a student at Meharry. I don't have any of that history, and so I want to acknowledge to you that my comments, my perspective on this, in all humility, is based on much more limited interaction than yours. And I absolutely want you to know that I make these comments and my views with that humility, also acknowledging that by virtue of holding this seat, I must exercise that judgment and opinion, as must each of us on this board. And so I say that to acknowledge my responsibility and trying to do that. I would also want to echo what Ms. Smith said, which is my views on this, and as I have expressed them, are focused on the mission and not the person. And I do believe, from what I have understand from the board that I've been on so far, that each of us is very passionate and committed to having a public hospital that is an exemplary hospital that is focused on serving people who are underserved, to provide equity in healthcare in our community, to make good on the promise in the Metro Charter that this facility, this enterprise we are engaged in, is to make sure that people who fall through the cracks in healthcare get the healthcare that they need and they deserve, and that we are committed to that. And so that is also the spirit in which I offer these comments, and hope that is my belief that Dr. Webb has had that opportunity, has had successes, but has not demonstrated in this critical time when we really need a leader who is able to put together coalitions that will address the need for a new hospital and what that looks like. I've come to the conclusion that is there is likely someone who is better situated and has those skills.
Any other further comments? All right, seeing none, we will entertain a motion on a recommendation to the full board about Dr. Webb's contract, which ends June 30th, 2025.
Madam Chair, I would move that we recommend to the board that the hospital authority not extend the current agreement with Dr. Webb, that the hospital authority not enter into a new employment agreement with Dr. Webb, and that the parties would discontinue the employment relationship between the hospital authority and Dr. Webb when this contract terminates on its own terms on June 30th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
This is really tough because of all of the comments that my colleagues here on the board have said. Dr. Webb brings passion and dedication. There is no question about that. But it is about, in the words of my colleague to my right, about looking forward. And this is really tough because Dr. Webb deserves the kudos for what he has done here. But is he right moving forward with the multiple issues that we have on the table that need to be resolved immediately? Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? Okay. All right, the motion passes. With that, that is the end of our committee meeting. I appreciate everyone's time. Again, thank you for all the work that you've done. Thank you for the time coming every other week or so to this boardroom and giving us your hours. I appreciate that. Thank you for your service to the community. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.